at the question of what makes someone heal, what makes someone not heal. And my observation is that in order to accommodate your energetic system with healing, you have got to be able to unplug your circuits. Now let's start with the image I want you to work with. I want you to picture that you have 100 circuits of energy coming into the top of your head. And that this energy, you can call it life force, you can call it prana, whatever word you like, but this is the life force and it's coming in through the top of your body. And that, imagine that I am your angel and you have not yet incarnated. And I'm going to talk to you about the rules of how to manage your energy when you get to the physical world. And that's what this is about. So that these 100 circuits coming in, I will tell you that the non-physical world is going to continually transmit energy through these circuits. What kind of energy? By energy, from now on, I want you to understand that term as an alive force that includes directions for your life, that includes guidance under any single circumstance, in any single occasion. That from now on you understand that once you are alive in the physical world, you are constantly a guided human creature, if you will. Now, when I work with the image of your circuitry coming down through your body, how it works for me is that I've developed an internal model in which I follow your circuits into perceptions that you are keeping alive. Right? Now, those perceptions can be anything from a memory of a trauma that you should have long ago reconciled. And what happens is those circuits go down through your entire body, and then I image them, leaving through their appropriate chakra systems, meaning this. If, for example, you have a memory of having been physically raped, the part of your body that's going to hold that memory and consequently have a power leak is literally your second chakra or your sexual genital area. All right? So I get an image of that. And then the next thing I have is the image of a rape experience. And then I get the image of how much of your energy is going into that memory. And while I'm going to spend a great deal of time chatting about what it means to heal and to call your energy back, I will tell you, we are designed in such a way that we are not meant to mourn our traumas for longer than a short period of time. All right? No matter what they are. Right? No matter what they are. The moment you start financing your own traumas, and I follow that, it then tells me what cell tissue your energy is being taken from to keep that memory alive. Now what that means is, now I want you to image this. Picture yourself with 100 circuits coming in, and while I use the number 100 circuits, I'm using an arbitrary number. I have no idea. I'm using a number I can work with so I can work within the realm of percentage to make a point. However, my point is, I want you to imagine one memory of something sad that still haunts you, that you perhaps should have long ago reconciled, but you haven't. Can you all do that? Just one memory, one experience, one relationship, one insult. I don't care what it is. Everybody got one? All right, now I want you to imagine that your energy is going down past your cerebral area, down through your neck, down through your breast tissue and back, down through, and it gets below your waist. And now, instead of 100% of your energy being present to make healthy cell tissue below your waist, are now distributing that energy to this memory. And let's say it's really a substantial memory. It takes 40, 50, 60% of your space, if you will, or your juice. And you give 60% of your juice, your electromagnetic energy, your prana, your life force, to that memory. That leaves you 40% to manage the bio processes of this part of your body. Not only that, from every single day and in every way, the harvest that this memory produces gets returned energetically into your system. It gets returned because your system is like a debt factor. It's like, all right, who did I loan this energy to? And they have to pay the interest on that debt. And that goes into your cell tissue. So your cell tissue gets formed in a time warp because you should be in present time, but you're not. Now, given that perspective, I'm going to take you into the human energy system, and we're going to go one chakra at a time. And I'm going to talk to you about the quality of data that is in each one of these chakras and how you manage it. Right? Now, again, I repeat the image of your circuits coming in through the top of your head. If I were drawing this, the image I would ask you to look at is I would ask you to draw 7 circles on top of each other and number them 1 at the bottom, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then when you get to the third one, draw a line across it. So on the bottom you have 2 and 3, and on the top you have 4, 5, 6, and 7. I divide the body this way now. I do that because I now realize that we have 2 different energetic zones. The chakras that are below our waist and the chakras that are above. The chakras that are below our waist deal with our external life and our external power. And we spend most of our life there. And when I think of the causes of disease now, I now realize that disease begins, every disease, no matter what you have, begins below your waist, no matter where it's located in the body. And that if you understand yourself as a system of power and the management of these issues, and the management of your whole flow of power, it's going to make it a whole lot easier for you to translate the crises you come into, including such as viruses or depression or the inability to feel creative. Why do I refer to this as energetic anatomy? Why would I use the word anatomy? What I realized is that the chakra system, while that has become a familiar term to us, is quite frankly too vague to capture the specific nature of the way our spiritual structure merges with our biological one. We are as organized energetically as we are physically. Our spiritual structure is as detailed as is our biological structure. A common mythology is that the spirit hangs out somewhere in the body until we die, and then it either pays for our crimes or benefits all our good things. But that more or less the energetic part of ourselves has no function during our life of any practical nature. What I have come to believe is there is no bigger piece of nonsense in the world. I now would say that we are 98% energetic interaction and 2% matter. So, in your first chakra, we're going to call this the tribal database. And think of it like this bottom of a great big huge hourglass, because this part of your body, when you're first born, this is where your tribe programs you. Now, refer again to that image of 100 circuits coming into the top of your head. And imagine that when you're born, those 100 circuits are completely distributed by your tribe. They decide what to plug your energy into. And when I talk about you plugging your energy into something, I'm referring to you plugging your energy into belief patterns that you are now going to, quote, energetically finance. So, your tribe plugs you into sociological beliefs. How old you should be when you marry. How old you should be about sexuality. Whether or not interracial things are good or bad. All of these things sociologically are plugged into you by your tribe. Not even consciously. It just happens. All of your superstitions are plugged into you by your tribe. And believe me, if I had a chance to go through every one of you in this room, as intelligent, you can show me 17 PhDs and I'll show you that your superstitions still have you by the short hairs. Because that's what's true. What this part of your body has more authority over you than any other part of your body at all. At all. It is this first and, well, actually first, second, and third, but this first chakra. Because this is the one that's also plugged into all of your beliefs about time and space. All of your beliefs about the way things should be. All of your beliefs about what is linear, logical. It is all plugged into this part of your body. This is the part of your body that's plugged into justice, to law and order, to geography, to culture, to your idea of what other cultures are. When you say, well, what do you expect? There's no such thing as an Irish person who can cook. And there's no such thing as an Italian person who can do numbers. All of these sociological attitudes that you have are plugged into this part of your body. Now, you can think, for example, that you've moved past this energy having any authority in your life. And I'm telling you, you haven't even begun to. Okay? You haven't even begun to. Don't think that because your personality has had enough of your parents that you've unplugged your circuits from these belief systems, because those are two different worlds entirely. I remember one time I was over in England. I taught a great deal over there, and I was commenting about the fact that we are trying to become a species whose allegiance is to the global village versus to our personal nations and our nationalities and identities that way. And this woman said, while her entire personality was talking about absolutely how could anybody not think of themselves as just part of one big human family, within 2 minutes that same person said, you know, I suppose there are nationalities one might want to be other than British, but you know, I can't imagine what that might be. And when I called her on it and said, excuse me, I can think of one. Now we were going to tribal warfare, right? I was thinking of one. She immediately did what I see everybody do, which is take this approach. Whatever part of you that says, I really don't believe that, but I was raised that way. And when you use an excuse like, look, I really don't believe that, but I was raised that way, which means I can't help it. The moment you refer to that, what you are technically doing is you are literally saying that I am allowing my circuits of energy that come into the top of my head to still be managed by my tribe. Even though my personality is beginning to say, you know, I think I want authority over, quote, creating my own reality. Every single time you say, you know, I really probably should do something about this belief, but I was raised that way, so what the hell? What you are technically doing is allowing your prana, your life force, to be discharged through your biology via your tribe versus yourself. Am I saying this in a way that you are understanding? Because it is so crucial. Now let me translate this to you in terms of what this means so you have a perspective to work with. Just to give you a working visual, if you will, of how literal our tribal and begins of our wiring. I want to take you back to the year 1929, October, and the Great Depression. Right? The stock market crash. And what happens is our first chakra, the first chakra of our country, undergoes a depression, a stock market crash, and our tribe changes its vocabulary and begins to evaluate that crisis by saying, we have been financially crippled. Within months, we develop a virus that reflects exactly the trauma the nation went through. We develop polio, and we become crippled. And in order to manage our way through this, we elect a president who had Roosevelt to lead us through, so that we are saying unconsciously, tribally, archetypically, we will finance someone who's going through the same thing we are, because he can lead us out. So we go through World War II, and we change our vocabulary. Now look at this vocabulary, our sixth chakra, the mental field. We change our mind. We change our perception of an event. And then we are free to say, we will unplug our circuits, our first chakra circuits, from this notion that we are, quote, crippled. And we plugged it into the perception we are economically on our feet again. And that is exactly how we changed our language. And then Salk was free to find the vaccine for the virus of polio. Now I could take you through one tribal event after another and show you how we finance this. This is how we co-create reality. And what I want to emphasize again and again is that if you are plugged in to all of these events, all of these tribal ways of thinking, not just your personal biological tribe, but your national tribe, and then the feminist tribe, or whatever multiple tribal levels you are financing, you've got to understand that that means their energy comes back to you. It means that the quality of energy that that group that you are financing casts a vote in what's going on in your personal biology. That is the consequence. Which is why, for example, where do epidemics come from? Epidemics are a first chakra phenomenon. You are prone to epidemics not through your throat, not through the energy of your heart, but through the energy of this, your first chakra, your tribal chakra. An epidemic is a tribal disorder. We are now at a time when we have the epidemic of AIDS. Right? AIDS is an incredible virus. But now let's take a look at AIDS through our tribal first chakra. And I offer you this for a couple of reasons. One, to show you how to stay healthy. Two, to show you how to help it along. The way I would ask you to take a look at AIDS through the first chakra, so you begin to work with the energy anatomy, not only of yourself, but of the global village. I remember years and years and years ago when I was a baby journalist or whatever, attending a lecture by a holy man from India. It was the first time I'd ever seen anyone like this. I thought he was an idiot. And I showed up smoking a pack of cigarettes and drinking coffee like a fiend. So there I was in the back of the room smoking and drinking and listening to this man. And he made this statement. He said, the greatest gift you can give this planet is to be a fully healthy you. And I'm sitting there smoking, drinking, thinking, this guy's a jerk, right? Now, I humbly say he was right. But I understand it at a level at which I never even could possibly imagine understanding possible, which is what it means to be so powerful that you make your contributions to the village via thought. That you become so empowered that you actually know what it means to loan one of your circuits of energy to a thought form and say, I will finance that idea. I will help you magnetize that idea. I will help you energize something. Where you learn to work with yourself with such clear directives that you actually distribute your energy into thoughts with absolute clarity of how much energy and what the consequence is, because you know that what that perception creates is going to be the harvest that comes back into your biological tissue. Now, let me give you a perception of how to see AIDS, because that is your first chakra. Why is AIDS now? Where did it come from? Like the polio virus that hit at a time, I encourage you from now on to look at everything through a tribal perspective, to stand back and say, what is energetically going on here? Now then, you want to look at the fact that it has a very common manifestation of pneumocystis. It is called a disease of the lungs, a kind of cancerous pneumonia of the lungs, if you will. Kaposi sarcoma, the disorder of the skin, the blood system in the skin, cancerous purple lesions, you've seen those on the body. So it has these two manifestations. Now the ordinary mortal would look at this and think that AIDS is an immune disorder, which it is. First chakra is your immune system, and that it's a lung disorder. But I ask you to take a look at it from this perspective. And that's that the time has come for this planet to release its financing of the perspective of victim consciousness. Let me say this again. The thought we create our own reality stands in direct opposition to the perception of the victim. You cannot have both living in the same body, can you? Not at all. And what that means is I want you to have this image. I want you to imagine that I'm drawing the earth and a huge ozone level around the earth. And that on the right side is this little circle, and inside I would write the word victim. And on the other side of the earth is a circle that says we create our own reality. We are sitting here on the earth in the middle, and each one of us is undergoing the experience of having experiences in which we are being forced to look at our own sense of victim consciousness. Whether we feel victimized financially, physically, as children looking at our parents, I don't care which way it is, you are being asked to look at yourself as a victim. And what being a victim gives you permission to do. Self-pity, mourn, grieve, not be fully who you are, blame others. Whatever rules being a victim gives you permission to do. And I will promise you, anytime you now try to invest your energy into creating a scene that is born out of permission given because you were victimized. I get to have this because I was victimized. I had a bad childhood, therefore I'll have this. Anytime you do that, circumstance will fail you. Because what is happening is the victim consciousness is being withdrawn from our collective unconscious. And in its place, the perception that we co-create reality, that it's no longer done unto us. Now, where AIDS fits in on this is that if you look at the entire global village, the virus is attracted to those who radiate victim consciousness the most. In our particular culture, it came in the drug addicts, prostitutes, and in the dominantly male homosexual culture, because they carried a level of victim. But if you go into other cultures, Africa, 40% of the nation is HIV positive, of the continent. And the blood from Africa has gone to Romania, has gone into Russia. It's spreading everywhere. But if you look at where it's spreading, the countries that it's spreading to have a real rapport with victim consciousness. If you look at the global village and you look at the earth, I'll show you another perception. Pneumocystis, which is the breakdown of the lungs, is equal to the disease of the breakdown of the rainforest, because those are the lungs of the earth. Kaposi sarcoma, the disease of the waterways of our body, are equal to the disease of the waterways of our beloved planet. And the immune system is equal to the ozone of this earth, which is destroyed. So long as any of us victimize life at all, any form of victimization promotes the virus. Now, the greatest thing you can do to keep yourself whole, and I'm using that as an example of whether I'm talking about AIDS or whether I'm talking about a financial epidemic in the society, or whether I'm talking about the fact that in years to come there will not be a Medicaid system and a Medicare system, and we will not have that as we turn the corner in the year 2000. That's not news. What you need to do, what everyone needs to do, is to become strong enough in terms of what they are going to finance with their energy, because that is what you're going to experience. So, your first chakra is your connection to whether or not you expect society to be there to take care of you. Now, your personality can say, no, I don't. But if I sat with you and said, oh yeah, what do you expect from your boss? What do you expect from a place that you work for? If you'll notice, there is a universal phenomenon taking place, and that's that no tribal system is now able to take care of its own. Whether that tribal system is General Motors or DuPont or little companies or whatever it is, what is happening fundamentally is that the tribal archetype is changing. Now, you got to take a look at that, because that is influencing your body and your biology and the bonding you do with everybody. If I said to you, what tribal rules are you plugged into? How would you answer me? Could you answer me? Have you ever even thought about it? Your first chakra, in order for balance, your first chakra requires that you plug your circuits into a tribal structure that nurtures you, that you feel safe in. We are fundamentally communal creatures. We are not meant to be on our own. So our first chakra has to have some level of ourselves plugged in to group energy that nurtures us. More often than not, you'll find that your first chakra is plugged into a lot of energy that isn't nurturing you, but you don't know how to break the bond. If I said to you, how many of you are plugged into rules that say, you better save your money, don't be risky. Okay, don't risk anything. How many of you are plugged into thoughts of caution and protection? Just raise your hands and I'll evaluate it. How many of you are? All right. Okay. Now, so I would say the majority in this room are conscious that you are plugged in. Now, from now on, use this visual. You're actually plugging in your life force into a thought form that's in a little box, and that thought form says, be cautious, don't be spontaneous. And that thought form gets your life force. You are plugging in your circuit through your first chakra into that. Now, watch what happens here, because simultaneously, you're praying for spontaneous guidance. Do you see anything that's the least bit incongruent here? The way you pray and the way you're plugged in are two different worlds. Two different worlds entirely. And how many of you are plugged in to the notion that if you work for someone, that person needs to take care of you? See, I love this because you say, oh, no, I couldn't admit this in public. Ha! Where did I see you in a lawsuit, right? Mm-hmm. And how many of you are into that you create your own reality? How many buy into that in any way, shape, or form? So that's the majority in this room. How many of you still blame anybody for anything? Okay, now that's the majority of people in this room. Okay, now, do you see anything at all incongruent with those two pairs? I think I create my own reality, but while I'm learning that, I think I'll continue to blame everybody else. All right, now see, here's where you got to take a look at something, and that's that one of the reasons why you may find that your life is jammed and things are not happening is that what you claim you believe is not getting any energy breathed into it. So those perceptions cannot participate in the creation of your reality. Because what you are plugged into, be cautious, be safe. If you look at what most people believe in their first chakra, in the first chakra of your body is a belief that says things should happen according to a certain time schedule. Let me give you the time schedule. That you should be married and settled or settled in some way, shape, or form by the time you're at least in your mid-20s to late 30s. And that nobody in their mid-40s should be asking, where to from here, God, etc., etc., etc. Okay? All right, I want you to connect a dot here. And that's that these beliefs in your first chakra are probably still commanding your biology and your reality. We do indeed create our own reality, but here's the difference. We are working with tribal creation versus self-creation. And the time has come where the gods are saying, come on, time to take on self-creation and to move away from the tribal. Because what tribal permission gives you is the ability not to take responsibility for where your energy has gone. Consequently, you participate in what I would call group karma versus individual. So when you ask very deep and rich spiritual questions, like, why is this happening to me? But your circuits are plugged into a million other people, you better start asking, why is this happening to us? Why is this happening? And when you seek your answer, you have to seek it from a huge perspective that includes all of the groups you are plugged into. You are participating in evolution at a speed that includes all the groups you're plugged into. You are choosing to evolve at that rate. Okay? It would take me longer to move all of you into a thought form than to move one of you, correct? So if you decide, I think I want to learn with a group, and then you plug yourself into a group, let's use the military, because the military is a first chakra organization. It's a tribal group, okay? Now, if you say to the military, you create your own reality, where do you think you're going to get with that? Do you think that there is any part of a military persona who's plugged into that perception from a spiritual point? No, not at all. And how long do you think it's going to take the military, that entire body of energy, to get that? A long time. Now, right next to plug to group evolution is plugging your energy into the speed at which your cells mutate. Let me say this again. In plugging yourself into group thoughts, you are simultaneously plugging yourself into the rate at which your own cell tissue can heal within an illness. So, for example, if the majority of your energy is plugged into tribal group systems, like, I better put my money in the bank and save it for, quote, a rainy day. I better not take a risk because risks just don't work. I better not do this after age 40 because nobody does this after age 40. Nobody has a baby at age 44. Nobody does it. If you find that the majority of who you are is controlled by that, then I promise you, you can only heal at the rate at which society is healing. And if today society heals cancer and it takes 5 years or 7 years to get out of the risk, then you better believe you are plugged into that. And I don't care how much organic food you take, because this is the profile of what really counts. Let me say this in a different way. The more you are plugged in to this external world of tribal authority over your reality, that determines the rate at which guidance comes to you. Let's play angel for a minute. You're going to say, I need some guidance, and you talk to me, I need it now. In the spiritual tradition, there is this notion that you have to be very special to get guidance. Especially clear guidance. Now watch. Collective conscious is plugged into this, and you say, this idea that you can't have direct guidance is nothing but a bunch of nonsense. You have a technical malfunction. Here's your technical malfunction. If you are plugged into tribal authority, what you are actually saying is, I want guidance, but give it to me real slowly. What are you trying to control with the beliefs you plug your spirit into? You are trying to control the speed at which change happens in your life. That is what you are trying, which is why if you look at mystics, they have some interesting phenomena in common. One of which is they can manifest thought into form instantaneously. Why is that possible? They got the technical side of it straight. They are not plugged into tribal systems. They know that if I don't need to evolve with a group, and I plug in to the world behind my eye, I can make vibhuti in my hand because thought goes into form. I can make grace. If I am plugged into the need to evolve with a group, what I am actually saying is, I want my biological tissue, I want my entire life to move at that speed, to evolve at that speed. I don't want it that quickly. I could have it that quickly, but I don't want it that quickly. That's what you finally got. And when you say you create your own reality, you do. But what you are in charge of is how fast do you want energy to convert into matter? How fast do you want change to happen? Because every one of you is born knowing, and this is in your first and all the rest of your chakras, that every truth that finally wakes up in you will change the rules of your life. You are born knowing that. You do not need me or any other teacher to tell you that. You are born knowing that if you decide to play by more conscious rules, the entire format of your life as you know it has to change. And everyone with it. And you know that that will bring on sudden earthquakes. You know it. Everyone knows it. Because that is what it means. What you are actually experiencing is the unplugging of your circuits from external forces and thought forms that had authority over you, and everybody that is attached here. Let me give you an example of a first chakra thought form. If you have a lot of your energy invested in the perception that after age 35 you're not attractive anymore. I'm hearing rumblings in the room, all right? All right? Have you got your circuits plugged into that one? If you suddenly found yourself unplugged from that perception, and you plugged yourself into attraction is a full-time, every day of my life thing. It has nothing to do with age. I don't want to be plugged into that reality or anybody who's plugged into that reality. I want people who are only plugged into beauty is absolutely a message of the soul. This is just packaging. It has nothing to do with age. I'll take that circuit. And you actually play. All of a sudden, you find yourself vibrating at a higher level. You, quote, feel better. And you know why? You are actually genuinely vibrating at a higher level. This isn't just temporary kundalini mismanagement. You are actually vibrating at a higher level, okay? You have actually plugged yourself into a higher truth. You don't age as fast. Why don't you age as fast? Because when you plug yourself into truth with a TH at the end, eternal truths, meaning I am living according to that. I am making my choices according to that. It's not just a theory. I'm not just waiting to get to the promised land. I am living according to the truth that beauty is an everyday experience, and it's got nothing to do with the package I've come in. It is just what I radiate. And I am creative and spontaneous, and I am exactly where I am supposed to be. I am with who I'm supposed to be. I'm giving up the promised land mythology that there's some place, some person, some one thing that will make me eternally happy. Rather, I'm finally connecting into the truth that happiness is an inside job, and I have to create it, and every single day something wonderful is contained within the package, and it's determined by how I interpret events. I'm giving up the pain or pleasure model of interpretation and plugging into the truth that every day holds some measure of power if I let it in. And all of a sudden, I'm not losing my energy to any illusions. My cell tissues don't break down. They get enhanced. Therefore, you don't age the same way. Therefore, you have a prayer and you say, you know what, I need some guidance here. You have no interference with guidance coming in. And your angel says, turn left. And you go, oh, turn left. You don't have to wait 5 years. And I mean that literally. You don't have to wait 5 years to hear it because you're not plugged in to a whole group that has to decide to turn left because that's how you wanted your guidance distributed, slowly and through a group mind. This is your first chakra. Okay? And learning to manage the energy of your first chakra goes a long way. And what people don't realize is how incredibly your biology is plugged in to this first chakra arena and to your tribal data bank. I have had so many instances where I am talking to a person sitting in front of me and I'd say, why don't you try this or why don't you try that? And within a second, that person says, no, I could never do that. But what actually took place in those 2 to 3 seconds is that person took the suggestion I offered him or her and ran it through his circuits, through the tribal mind. And the tribal mind voted back, absolutely not. And out of his mouth came, no, I can't do that. And it's, now, you don't think you do that? How many of you run your decisions past what will they say? The most asked question in the world. What will they say? This is your first chakra, and I am asking you to begin to pay attention to every time you say, what will they say? They, I don't care who the they is, I'm not even fussy there. From now on, you actually begin to wonder how much of my soul, my spirit, my energy, am I loaning to that they? Now, you got to remember something. A tribe, by its nature, is meant to keep you safe, but not to cause you to develop individuality. That's against the tribal archetype. So that when you go to your tribe and you say, I've got this wonderful piece of news, I'm nothing like you. And your tribe doesn't say, thank God, you're out, you got free, you're out of here. You literally have got to connect the dot that being part of the tribal mind is part of your evolution. And there now has come the time where you are being asked by your guides, by your own contract in this lifetime, to unplug from evolving via the group mind to taking more responsibility for the management of your spirit. And in order for you to get that message, to return to square one, which was the classroom that I put you in before you incarnated, I, as your angel guide, will have to say to you, in order to inspire you to move beyond the tribal level of evolution, each one of you has to incarnate into a tribal system where you don't fit. Otherwise, you will never take up your bed and walk. You've got to not fit. Now, you will spend years trying to fit, but you're not getting the real message. The real message is you should look at your tribe, embrace them, and say, thank you for being exactly the way you are, because I need to move on. If you could see through that lens, what you would begin to do is take your power back. That's how you begin to unplug your circuits from that level of tribal authority. You do it with gratitude, not with anger. You do it with this idea, with this higher perception that they agreed to love you inadequately, to the best of their ability, so that you would seek something of a greater measure.